back to Insurance Nerds Attachment Point News Roundtable. I got Todd Greenbaum with Input One and Go-To Premium Finance. Thank you, Todd, for joining me today to talk the shop on technology and premium finance.
Thanks very much for inviting me, Brett. I'm really glad to be here.
Todd's the CEO of Input One and Go-To Premium Finance out of Woodland Hills, just kind of North LA County. So it's nice to have a local technology company. Usually I feel like we're on a insurtech island, out here in the Southwest. And then we're kind of joking around. I know a tremendous number of the team over there, great guys, top to bottom, really cool things you're doing on the traditional side, and looking forward to getting into, talking about the company with you today.
Well, thanks very much. Really glad to be here.
Yeah, we were talking ahead of time. I had thought they started off as a technology company and got into premium finance, but Todd was telling me it was actually a little bit backwards of that.
Yeah, well, it actually was a technology company and a service bureau, but really focused on premium financing. So my grandfather actually started the business in the early 80s. And it was a consulting firm that helped banks get into the premium finance business by helping them with the software and the services related to that. And then we grew the business over time and expanded beyond. We went from a service bureau to a software company, started selling software to the premium finance business. Then we went beyond that and started to provide billing plans for carriers, because there's a lot more premium that's collected via billing mechanisms than there are with financing mechanisms. And then we grew that into a digital payments business, and essentially just kind of grew with concentric circles. Each time we figured we've mastered this, we'll go a little bit bigger, and this is where we are today with this ecosystem of products all about premium collection across all modalities.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I think, it's an industry of get rich in your niche and kind of double down, like you said, have a core competency, complement.
Yeah.
And I think we're kind of seeing, 5 years ago, we had this divide between tech, insurtech, and insurance that were kind of coming against each other. Now it seems like everybody's on board for transformation. Everybody's on board to try to make the client experience better, cleaner, smoother. How are you seeing the transformation of technology and insurtech influence even, your classic customers right now?
Well, I look at the digital transformation of the insurance business very similarly the way that I looked at it from the banking and the brokerage business. I think that like insurance is almost like the last vestige of financial services that's digitizing over. So you saw banks and brokerage firms going to 24/7 communications and digital communications, digital movement of money and document storage and all that kind of thing. And so the insurance industry is just following through that. And of course, then they're adding nuanced things about with respect to insurance, such as digital quote bind issue. So that kind of thing is really reducing the friction and all the inefficiencies that go along with an insurance transaction. So it's very similar in the way that the banking and the brokerage firms have gone over with the add-on nuances of insurance.
Yeah, it is kind of cool. I had this rule of thumb for startups that get involved in trust like the founders, because I'm like, if you don't have that, what's the point? See it happening in somewhere that's not insurance yet, and then also believe the team can be successful. It's kind of cool that we have a little bit of a laggard industry where we can kind of see a few things happen elsewhere. But with that being said, are you seeing insurtech impact the industry, kind of the classic industry in some ways too? Are you seeing the true technologists kind of coming towards the legacy side of the business?
Well, there's both of it. I mean, all of the analog elements of handling an insurance transaction, anything from how do you do outreach to clients before they're clients, and then all the way to the end of the process with a claim or a policy renewal. But everything in between is that was on an analog basis is now being digitized. So I think there's a huge piece of that. But then there's all the new elements like the IoT elements, the fact that you can now have a device in your house that's going to tell your insurance company when your pipe is leaking or how fast your car is going. So there's all this new stuff that wasn't there before. So you have both sides of what you said, analog going to digital and all this new digital and newer tech that's enhancing the viability of the product, the experience of the product, removing the friction and just making it a much better world to live in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I want to get really nerdy. I'm trying not to get too distracted and talk about like IoT for water, talk about risk mitigation in cyber, telematics and auto. As premiums get expensive, I think we're going to see some really cool solves. I don't think it's going to be a classic just I give you money, you solve my problems later. I think we'll all be working together to be a little smarter, bring down costs, which will be interesting.
Absolutely true.
So we've kind of gone like carrier side, we've gone insurtech, but the agents, the lowly folks like myself out there trying to put some policies in place. Do you have any advice? Where do you think agents, I'll call them the smaller side, can kind of trip themselves up? Or what do you think have been some of the best practices to, I'll say digitally transform, but not break, what's worked for 40 years?
Sure. Well, look, as with any business, Brett, insurance is a people business, right?
Hmm.
And so when you're an insurance agency, your job is to build relationship with customers. So first you got to find them, then you got to build the trust,
Hmm.
then you sell them a product, make sure they have a great experience and so on. So on the first part is the finding them and building that trust. You start with the whole digital aspect of social media in terms of reaching out to people. Because think about it, before social media, how did agents get customers? They had to go knock door to door, put things
Hmm.
on your windshield, or maybe put an ad in the paper. But now you can do all sorts of outreach using social media and using it intelligently. You can identify what products do I have? What am I really good at? And now find people that want those things. So I think that using professional and social media, LinkedIn and Facebook and so on down the line, allows agencies to reach out to a broader spectrum of people that are more likely to be buyers of their products. So that's one
Yeah.
element that I think is really important.
Oh, I think so too. Even for myself lately, I've been thinking through like Facebook groups or whatever else, finding products that have like an easier point of delivery, and you kind of master the sale in the analog and the traditional relationship, and then try to build a program around a delivery. But I'm
Yeah,
jack of all trades right now. I got to find my niche, but we'll get there one day.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so I'm usually familiar. I work with Smart Choice, kind of boots on the ground, smaller agencies, but I'm sure you folks have worked with, national agencies, kind of top decision makers who are running regions or across the whole country. What considerations or ways do you think those guys need to analyze decisions that's a little bit different than your mom and pops that are just trying to keep up with the times?
Well, I think those larger agencies, they have the ability to make big investments in cloud-based AMSs, although there are
Hmm.
very affordable solutions in the smaller range as well. But by virtue of bringing in those cloud-based AMSs, they can really start to take a look at larger data sets. They can improve the communications that they're having. They can have huge, big efficiencies on the back end, which of course allows them to
Hmm.
offer products at a better price. So I'm seeing a lot of that, and then some of those larger agencies can make bigger investments in omni-channel communication, artificial intelligence. We're seeing more and more chatbots coming along
Hmm.
that are helping people to answer questions that people would normally answer. So I'm seeing a lot of that, and across the board, we're seeing digital payments as well as a big help there, because every time, if you go think about the amount of time you spend trying to sell a product, if it cancels or you don't get the money back in,
Hmm.
you might only get 80% or 70 or 60% of the premium that you sold, but you still had to expend 100% of the effort to sell it. So all of those types of things, some of which are more manifest in larger agencies, but to a large extent are achievable by all spectrum of insurance agencies.
And I was just checking my phone for the date. We're talking on April 14th. I'll try to get this out as quick as possible. Right now, we just can't miss payments on personal lines. Anything that's in place in the state of California, it's like, please turn this in on time. Please do not have a lapse. Please do not create any sort of issue here. Yeah, so just that digital connectivity is so much more helpful.
Yeah.
And so my background's predominantly in P&C, then I kind of played around on life. I felt like P&C was sort of trying to like work their systems to catch up, and then life just kind of jettisoned a lot of systems and stood up new ones. Um, how are you seeing the transformation at the carrier level, advancing, in terms of premium finance or payments? Is there anything you're seeing in the non-admitted, non-standard that's really progressed? Or are you still kind of having to connect the duct tape, I'll say, between the agency and just businesses it's always been done?
Well, what we're finding is as there is a broader adoption of cloud-based systems, cloud-based systems
Mm,
have inherently better open architecture than legacy systems do. And what ends up happening is that we do business with just so many different MGAs and carriers, and they are all very, very different. So the question is, how do you build
mhm,
systems for them to do everything that they want to do the way they want to do it? Well, the open architecture that goes along with the cloud-based systems allows them to tack on all of these integration tools to build systems the way that they want. So we're seeing the carriers are able to take advantage of that, and MGAs to a large extent as well. And by virtue of those integrations, they're able to do outreach and communicate with agency management systems directly with policyholders via the digital portals, directly through digital communications. And so all of those things I think are really, really important in terms of carriers being able to expand their methods of communication, reduce that friction, and bring policyholders into the fold of and welcome them as partners in the insurance transaction as opposed to just delivering them things.
I wonder too, one of the startups I help out with is a cyber startup. And as much as we talk about these open systems, connectivity, I feel like there's also better security there when you're handling checks in the mail, when you're logging into different payment portals. I feel like there's going to be something too about the connectivity that I think in the long run is going to have everybody a lot more secure, their information a lot more secure. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, even just mailing checks the way it used to be was crazy. You know, people started stealing checks out of mailboxes and then trying to recreate them once you could buy check creating software on the internet for 99 bucks, right?
It's
So that,
crazy.
yeah, that's not happening anymore, and or at least to a large extent. And so, and the more adaptation you
Mhm.
find in digital payments, the more you're going to see that security level and that safety level for policyholders rise.
It's pretty cool too, the idea of digital payments being in the surplus excess kind of ecosystem, just making life easier on everybody. You know, when I have those non-admitted rules come up, my accords, my payment forms, you know, occasionally grabbing a check, which I don't need to do anymore now, thanks to GoTo and Input One, just makes life a lot easier, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I started around insurtech like 5 or 6 years ago as the TechCrunch disrupt and all that, and the startups were battling the incumbents. Are you seeing some cool benefits for the tech forward companies to be working closer with the legacy companies? Or are you seeing the, I'll call it the tech forward MJs even evolving and seeing some of the best practices that were happening before and kind of adopting those a little bit more, you know, than maybe
Yeah.
5 years ago?
Yeah, there are two super helpful elements of the collaboration between insurtech and legacy carriers or people that are in the insurance business. When you go to build technology for something, you are a technologist first, right?
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean you have as much knowledge about the product for which you are developing that technology. But imagine if you could sit in the same room right next to the person that was in the business in the analog for 20
Hmm.
years. Now you all of a sudden start filling in the gaps and you build intelligent technology that actually solves the problems without having to kind of have all these gaps in it because you didn't know about this or you didn't know about that. So, and you could see it all the time with these insurance companies that have these labs and they're starting to incubate these insurtechs in those
Mm.
processes. So the ability to collaborate technology and legacy people that understand insurance, really important. And the other side of it is that when you're building technology, what do you need? You need capital because
Hmm.
building technology requires smart people and that requires money. And so the insurance companies are deploying capital into the insurtech space. And that allows the insurtechs to become more viable and do more research and do more development. So between knowledge share and capital investment, those are two huge elements that are going to continue to elevate the insurtech space.
I think too, by the nature of the beast with insurance, it's a little understated. Like I was surprised at how many like corporate VCs were around LA that you just don't hear about. You know, they're quietly doing their thing, quietly building up the industry. Not sure if you're involved in any brokerage, but Broker Tech Ventures is another cool example of good mid-sized players, you know, getting involved with insurtechs, trying to help them along. Um, yeah, so it sounds like just keeping a dialogue between the incumbents, you know, the new players. When I see a startup that has a few gray hair people like myself now, as I'm entering this, you know, I feel a little bit more confident. You know, when I see people that have had a few turns, you know, combined with the technology. And then I'll give a shout out to my buddy Tony Kanyas. He does say it's insure tech. You need insurance and you need technology. You
That's
know,
right. That's
yeah.
right.
So, uh, not to say like pontificate, but some of my thoughts are you still want an insurance agency to look like an insurance agency. You still want it to look like a place that maybe your parents would trust, but then hopefully you grab that expertise and you have that digital reach that goes much further. I don't see much changing on a relationship game. You know, if it's more than $400 or $500 personally or $1,200 commercially, you're going to probably want to talk to an agent. I don't feel like my job's going anywhere yet. But I do think I'll get to do more with less. Are there any trends you're kind of seeing next 3, 5, 10 years that have you excited? Anything that you might be worried about? Any trends you're seeing that you think are not beneficial to the industry?
Well,
Yeah.
I think as a business owner, you always have to be worried, right? You can
Hmm.
never be complacent, right?
That's
Well,
funny.
this is capitalism,
The
right? Kill or
paranoid
be killed.
survive.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
you have to. But you know, I said something earlier that I just want to repeat, and that is that insurance is no different than every other industry,
Hmm.
which is the fact that people do business with people,
Hmm.
right? And so you have to feel good about the people with whom you are dealing. In some cases, you can buy something online, you don't have to meet anybody, but more often than not, particularly with insurance, which is something that protects you, I think
Hmm.
you want to speak to a human being or you want to know person with whom you are doing business. So it's not to say that there won't be disruptive technology that might make it harder to do certain elements of business, but I do believe that insurance is a people business, and I think it's something that you have to have trust in. So that I do believe that's a strong element of the business. I don't think that's going anywhere anytime soon.
I think you got to allow people to shop the way that they want, you know, whether it's an online portal, drop a note to you, purchase it without talking. But I do think the consultative approach, I mean, maybe you can get an algorithm that's like, hey, they have a bundle, they have a rental property, but they don't have an umbrella yet. You should market that to them. I'm sure we'll have some of that agent assist. I go back to like Palantir a lot where they'll pull the data, but it's usually a butt in the seat at the end of the line that's making a decision, you know, good, bad, right, wrong, fraud,
Yeah,
not fraud. Yeah, I
yeah.
think we'll have a lot of that. I would like to put the onus back on the brokers a little bit for frontline underwriting. Like, I think it's our job to know what we're insuring and why, and
Yeah,
a reasonable condition of it.
right, right.
Yeah, I think salespeople owe underwriters, honesty and good business. Yeah,
I also think, just to kind of do another
yeah,
roundup element on that discussion, you can go online and buy something, and you could do that through a website, and that is definitely going to increase more, because all of this big data and machine learning and AI is going to allow more automated quote bind issue. And you don't necessarily have to have a person for that when you're buying monoline stuff. You're buying an auto policy, you're buying a homeowner's policy. But what happens when you have a question? What happens when you want to insure something that's not part of the standard deal? What happens when you have a claim? You see, insurance is one of those things where it's like you don't think about it until you need it. And when you need it, you want to talk to a person, right? Because that's where that trust and comfort comes in. So that's why I do believe maybe there'll be a reduction in people on the front end for simpler type coverages. But when you really want when you want your insurance to perform for you, that's when I think the people really need to stay there.
Oh yeah, and what I've seen too is people go through claims experience where you're not their agent, they bought something direct, and then they'll like work with you on the claim. They'll have a kind of mixed experience, then they're your customer the next year. So we'll have some of those cycles. I don't think we're going anywhere.
Yeah.
Any kind of, I don't want to say like parting advice, but any kind of last ideas for smaller agents or folks that are kind of getting going? I know you guys have awesome technology that's free to the user, kind of client facing, white labeled, just really cool stuff. But any other kind of best tricks you're seeing that are really helping your agencies grow out there?
Yeah, we believe a lot in cross marketing. The age old adage is that it's a lot easier to sell something to an existing client than it is to find a new client. So in all of the things we do, we cross market. So we help our agents advertise other products that they sell to the same group of people that already they earned their trust for, right? So I do believe that agencies can always do better in marketing and focusing that marketing. What is it you said earlier on, right at the very beginning of our discussion? You said something about you said get rich in the niche or something like that,
get
right?
rich in niche, get rich slow. Insurance.
Right. So figure out what you're really, really good at, and then find the people that want that product. And I think if you do that better, then you're going to survive. You're going to do well.
The other cool thing I heard the other day, I was listening to a podcast, My First Million. It's kind of a fun little sales goofy one. But they're saying, figure out how you like to sell and then construct your activities around that. So I like networking. I'll go to a chamber. I like building websites, I like building landers. So a little bit SEO, a little bit of targeted ads, a little bit of old school networking. I think to play the game long, you have to play it how you play the game, to survive. You're not going to do well kind of fighting yourself. But yeah, where should people find your tools? How should they connect? If they want to hop on team, Input One or Go To.
Yeah. Well, the websites are great ways to do it. Just www.input1.com and www.gotopremiumfinance.com. And we have a really good way to explain and walk folks through what we do. And yeah, we have a lot of our products are no cost to the agencies, whether it's the financing solution or the digital solution, because it's our motto. It's like you shouldn't have to pay someone else to collect your own money. That's something that we don't believe in, and we feel real strongly about that. So that's the best way to do it. And then we've got lots of sales folks out there that anyone can talk to, and we're going to shows all the time, because again, it's people business. Be in front of people, show them who you are. We believe that's really, really important. So we're all over the place, all over the country, and shows and talking to folks, and we love doing that.
Yeah, real similar. Smart choice, boots on the ground, press flesh, knocking doors. Know my buddy Matt's out there working hard. Go to the shows, kind of meeting people where they're at. But yeah, true industry folks that love it and get it. But yeah, thank you so much for making the time today, talking through what you're seeing. And it's really cool, the transformation your team's been able to be part of for the past, number of years, and look forward to seeing where everything goes.
Well, I love the concept of the insurance nerds thing, because it is kind of a nerdy subject, but we get super excited about making insurance great, making it easy, making it more efficient. It's like, I don't know why we get so excited about it, but we just do. So we're just going to keep doing it because we love it.
And I'll say I got a decent lens on the tech. You guys are right where you need to be, right on the frontier. You can do all the cool stuff anybody wants to do to hook in, front end, back end, and make it smooth. So that's really cool. But thank you everybody for tuning in. And yeah, thank you again, Todd, for your time. Look forward to talking to you later.
Hey, thanks, Brett. Really nice to be here. Take care.
Cool. Easy enough. There you go.
Peace.